Like many of you, we battled depression during life's ups and downs.
Music has always been the one thing that we could rely on to get us through the tough times that we all face.
Follow us on our journey as we discuss the healing power of music,
Interview bands,
break down genres,
review band biographies,
and more.
This is the When Words Fail
Music Speaks podcast
with Blake Mosley
and James Cox.
Hey everybody, welcome to When Words Fail, Music Speaks. My name is Blake Mosley, otherwise known as Brosley. Today I'm joined by James Cox. James Cox, how you doing today, sir?
Hey man, how you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Today we have another special guest on the podcast. Man, we've had like such a great string of guests. It's been really fun to do these interviews with you, James. But today is a whole. I don't even know where to begin. Where do we even start? Scott Page.
Start from the beginning, brother.
My mind is just blown. Right.
Oh man.
Mr. Scott Page, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on your show, guys. I'm very happy to be here, and that was very nice. Thank you very much, making it so exciting that I'm here. I couldn't believe it. Thank you.
Well, I've got a few things here to say about you before we hop into the questions. Just a little short biography that I found on you. So Scott Page is a musician, technologist, and entrepreneur. As a performer, he is widely recognized as the saxophonist and / guitarist for Pink Floyd, Supertramp, and Toto. He currently serves as CEO of Think EXP. Is that the proper way to
Think Experience? Yeah, Think EXP. That's the best way to go. Yep.
Which is a live immersive media company based in Los Angeles. We'll get to that later. We've got some questions about that.
Sure.
As an entrepreneur, Page formed Walt Tucker Productions, an audio video post-production company that included projects for the Rolling Stones, Bon Jovi, Janet Jackson, Garth Brooks, Scorpions, and among others. An incredible lineup there. He also co-founded Seventh Level Incorporated, which is an award-winning CD-ROM game and educational software company. At Seventh Level, he co-produced Toonland, the world's first interactive musical cartoon starring Howie Mandel, the globally lauded Monty Python interactive series, and was instrumental in the development of QD7, an interactive multimedia joint venture between Quincy Jones, David Salzman, and Seventh Level. Page co-founded New Media Broadcasting, a social media and collaborative communications company. He's frequently he speaks as a guest lecturer and panelist at numerous media conferences and universities. He was also a featured guest mentor on over 150 of the weekly syndicated radio show Business Rock Stars, hosted by Ken Rutkowski. As an artist, he continues to record and play live performances. Today, we have the absolute honor and privilege to talk with you, sir. This is amazing. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for the wonderful intro. Boy, it makes me old. I can't believe I've done all that stuff. Right? That's so fun.
Man,
crazy. What a life. What a crazy life.
Yeah, you've been through a lot of stuff, and you've seen a lot of stuff. So it's a pleasure for us to actually get to learn what all you've seen and been through. So this is awesome. Thank you.
Great. Well, love it. Well, like I said, thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah.
Eileen speaks very highly of you guys. So
nice.
This is going to be a good one, she said. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, I want to jump right in with I'm sure you probably get asked about your Pink Floyd experiences and and the questions and things like that. I want to jump right in with the Think experience. Like, this is something that is so incredible to me. I watched several videos about this. On the website, it's described as striving to revolutionize the entertainment industry by bridging the gap between the human spirit and technological innovation with one-of-a-kind live immersive concert experiences. And can you just tell us kind of what that is and how it got started?
Yeah, sure. Well, as an artist and a musician, the world has shifted so much. You can't sell music anymore. There's no place to sell it. Where are you going to sell it? What are you going to play it on? You're not selling CDs. Nobody's got a CD player, and downloads aren't happening really anymore. So the only thing is really this live streaming business. Right. And I mean, it's a rough business for most artists. You got to have roughly a million streams to generate maybe $4,000 to $5,000 roughly.
Sure.
sounds like, okay, 1,000,000 streams, but there's very few artists on the entire Spotify catalog that even reaches 1,000,000 streams.
True.
So it's a very niche business for those who can really make it. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done. If you got the right marketing, you can get there. If you get, you can do 3 million streams a month. You can make, $14,000 a month. So that's real money.
Sure.
But it's very difficult to get to that space because, it's all about the playlist, and those playlists are really owned by the labels, and it's really hard to get on those lists and stuff. So it's a tough business. So seeing all that, I just started realizing that, well, where is the revenue model? Being a kind of a serial entrepreneur, this is my 4th company. I've been doing this for a while, and I can't believe I'm doing it again, which is crazy. That people will pay for an experience. That's like, what can you sell today? The artist can sell 2 things. They can sell the relationship, if you have the right relationship, influencer space, people will pay to have that relationship, or the experience. And so I just realized that creating experience is what it was about. So we started to build Think Experience, and one of our first experience was a Think Floyd experience, right? So we did a Think Floyd experience. Yeah. We can do a variety of things. We could do Think Stones, we could do Think whatever. But the first one was a Think Floyd experience, and we were doing it in a 360-degree immersive dome in Los Angeles. Now, what was interesting is we did 40 of those shows just before the year before COVID. And we pretty much sold them all out, which was great. And main thing, people loved coming to it because it was a real experience. You lay down and you look up, and it's 360 degrees. You're immersed in this visual, wild stuff. So you got this crazy visual stuff. We even had some beds and stuff. Some of the seats were people laying in these things that were connected to the music and the band. So it was really experiential. And, it was kind of like a shared VR experience, because when you looked kind of up, all you saw, you were immersed completely in the experience. And you can imagine with Floyd and all this cool visual stuff. So it was really cool. And, we were getting ready we had partnered with a company out of Canada, and we were in the midst of putting up a 1,600 seat immersive theater down at the Queen Mary down at the beach, but then COVID hit and everything fell apart. So what we've done now is I saw this. I woke up that morning when I drinking my coffee, and I realized, wow, all our revenue's gone when they shut everything down. Our revenue's gone, no gigs, no nothing. We're toast. And that poor theater is sitting in storage someplace right now, which it's very expensive to store because it's a big, massive thing, right? So we ended up not doing that. So I started looking at other revenue models and what are the opportunities, because I believe right now, because of this COVID situation and what it's thrown us into, it's created one of the greatest entrepreneurial times I've ever seen in my life. There are so many problems to solve and new ways to think about everything. And so we've been we kind of flipped our model a little bit, and we started thinking about how we can do a live show, a little different, where you're not going to jam 10,000 people in the room right out of the gate because of that, but sort of a premium live experience that's tied to streaming. But it's really, for me, it's the real-time 2-way streaming that is really where the value is, right? So it's how I can bring fan in stream, so I can bring fan into the event and start creating that kind of interactive experience between people. And then the third thing we brought into it was delivery service, because I can't hand you something through the screen. We can be there in real time, but I can have something delivered to you that can enhance the experience. So we're launching Livin.Live. Our first show will be coming up. We were supposed to do it last year, but then the COVID killed us, so we laid off. But we're going back in. We're going to do our first show in August that combines all of that. And then also there's a lot of some tech and things that is involved in all of this, where we were actually really focused. I don't know if you've been focusing on the NFT space. If you guys know what NFTs are, do you have any idea? Well, it's their non-fungible tokens. And what it is, it's in the cryptocurrency space. But for those out there that might be artists or business people, it is without a doubt the most significant, most powerful thing that has happened for the artist that I've ever seen in my lifetime. It completely flips the script on everything. And tokens, it's basically in the crypto space. Maybe you heard about the Beeple painting that sold for $69 million, the digital piece of art. That was pretty big in the news just recently. Right. On the music side, the Kings of Leon did 20,000 of their new album, and they sold basically $2 million worth in like 7 minutes. of these non-fungible tokens. Because what happens is a non-fungible token is when you take the blockchain and the ability to basically connect a digital asset to the blockchain to be authenticated is the only one of those digital assets, right? The authenticated digital asset. Well, that changes the whole game for artists, because now I can release a set of collectibles that can be traded in the marketplace and have value. And in a certain sense, if you think of NFTs, it's just the new publishing model, and that artists now can control that. So it takes a whole different, a new model to create experiences. Because for me, these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens, are really one-of-a-kind experiences that you can bundle up. You can sell them in sets. You can sell them, you can make one of 100 and only have 100 of those, and then those can be collectibles. And so even for new artists, now they can think about how they create art, tie it to the music, tie those tokens to this thing, and actually sell these and trade them. Now, what's so interesting about it is once those tokens are attached and you've actually created that authenticated piece of digital art that's managed on the blockchain, it controls all the rights from that point forward. So you're actually you're giving the person that actually buys that the ability to do things with that's set up in what they call the smart contract. But what's nice is in that contract, you can have a waterfall of basically a royalty stream, and it can go on. So if I sold, like an example, a guy put out a painting, he sold the paintings in 7 minutes. They were $900 a piece. I can't remember exactly how many what he sold, but it was like maybe 4,000 of them or something, or 400. Anyway, it turned into about 400 grand in the initial sale. Well, that same digital art piece a week later was selling for 118,000. So the person that bought those at $1,000 is now ability to sell it upward of 50, 60, 70, 80, up to 118,000, which was one of the bids for that. But the royalty stream of 10% was left that always goes back to the artist. So out of those 400 or whatever it was pieces, the 400 pieces at roughly $1,000, those people that bought an asset that was sellable, and then they sold the downstream. He ended up getting about $3.5 million about a week later after all the trades of the actual asset. So it really changes the whole game. You can gamify them. There's things that you can do. Think of it like a loot box, right? You can unlock this box that has all kinds of cool stuff in it, one of a kind, and then you own that like a collectible, and then those can be traded. So it creates new revenue streams, and what's great is the blockchain manages all those rights. So what happens is what's so beautiful about this is the minute that the sale happens, the money shows up in your digital wallet. So you get paid instantaneously for the sale. And then every time it's sold, the blockchain, with nobody involved, if it's sold again, automatic looks at the smart contract and then sends the money to those wallets. So you just wake up in the morning, you're going, how did I do today? Well, man, $10,000 is in my wallet today. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I never have to go to the label or anybody and say, hey, let me audit your books. Where's my money? What's happening? So it completely flips the narrative for artists now to control their IP, right? So if they have and own that IP, first thing you do is you tokenize it. Now you've put it in, and everything from there is a license, and then you can get to control all of that, and then you're constantly getting paid. So it's one of the biggest things. So if there's any artist out there in podcast land, I really highly suggest you jump into Google or go to YouTube and write in, what is an NFT and how do they work and stuff like that, and start going down that rabbit hole. It's worth putting that 15 to 20 hours of understanding, because this is the Wild West. It's a new frontier, and it is the gold rush in this space. And there's been lots of these things going down right now. And so I advise everyone, artists, to really take a look at this and take control of their IP and their stuff from this point going on. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're focused in that space. Our living show is one giant NFT, and it's built in, and we have a whole model based on that. And we're getting ready to launch that coming up in August. August 14th will be our show, our first official run of this model.
Nice.
I do have a question about it.
Oh, I'm sorry, James. Go ahead, man.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask: is this the first? Will this be the first show since COVID that you've done?
Well, full blown. I've done. We just played like a week ago. We ended up playing a little event at for the Young Presidents Association. We did an event. We bring my Think band. So the Think X is the name of the band, and that's Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction and Kenny Olson from Kid Rock's band and Norwood Fisher, and that I'm sure Eileen's probably hopefully getting some of them on your shows with you. Speaking of Eileen, there she is. She's calling me right now, but I'm not going to answer because we're doing this at this moment.
So sorry.
So
we love her, and we.
All right, she's gone. I will tell her. You're probably getting some of those guys. I'm sure she's probably booking them on the show too.
Probably. Yeah, hopefully sometime soon. But I do have a question going back to the stream sales and physical copies, right? So I believe that downloading streaming music is kind of like a double-edged sword now. Yes, you get your name out, but you don't get hardly any money feedback from those sales. Do you find the way that it was in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, as opposed to now, a little bit better or worse? But you can get your name out a lot easier now since it's right at your fingertips. I mean, I can make a total song off of my laptop and send it out to the world, and they have it. So,
that's rising. How do you rise above the noise, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's a tough business, but that's my point I teach a thing called SPACE, which stands for Story, Plan, Army, Conversion, Education. It's basically a business model for artists. It's all about the story. The story is critical, and it can't be, hey, I'm a saxophone player from Cincinnati and I play this and I grew up. Nobody cares about that story. It's like, what do you stand for? What's your purpose? What problem are you solving? Something that is valuable that you can then help you rise above the noise, but more importantly, it gives you the keywords and the phrases and the understanding that you can then basically growth hack, and you can go figure out find your audience, right? So you get the story, then the plan from your story, the plan all falls into place, and you have to, that's a whole nother model of like figuring out, I use lean startup principles. So you can go Google lean startup and start learning about the lean canvas, which is a one-page business. But so we go through this whole process. The A is the army, your influencers, your super fans, and that's basically your early adopters to the whole thing. And you got to learn about conversion, which is conversion funnels and things. And then that you can just go, I don't want to take too much time on this, but yeah. So then you go, where was I was on so conversion funnels are how to find your audience and then convert them from fans into customers, because if it's a business, you got to generate revenue. So I always try to teach my artists that they're your fans, but we need to turn them into customers so that you can support yourself, so you can run your business, because every artist now, I believe, is in the startup business. Like I said, this is the greatest time for the independent artist. I mean, you have these things, you got access, whoever owns the audience wins. You have the ability to get out to your own audience. You got the ability to build that relationship. You got the ability to sell your products. You can take the order. You can take a credit card. So it's really about how do you think about building your business? And you have to look at the trends. You have to understand everything. And that's why in my last, the E, which is the education, you got to get educated to figure out how to do those things that I talked about above, right? You got to go to school right now. So, I mean, it's not, I see so many of my artists, they're doing streaming things and they put out a tip jar and stuff, and that's okay. They make a little bit of money, but it's very difficult. I'm finding that they're fatigued after a while. It's very difficult to really generate any real revenue. So that's why you got to look at these other models and like why NFTs and experiences, and how do you bundle things together to create something people really care about that will actually pay for it. And that's what helps you through the lean startup, is how to identify your business. What is it you're going to do? I mean, what I love about the lean canvas, that one-page business plan, is it doesn't only tell you what you're going to do, it tells you what you're not going to do, right? Because artists can spend a ton of time and build a whole bunch of stuff. And I have so many artists, I'm going to make an album, then I'm going to get on social media and I'm going to start telling people to buy it. It doesn't work that way, right? It's just, nobody buys albums anymore. It's very, I mean, you do, I'm not saying nobody, it's it's very difficult to get anybody, first of all, to review an album, because who's going to sit there through 8 to 10 songs, and then it's also difficult to sell them unless you're doing vinyl as a special edition or something. And that's kind of interesting. So it's really, you have to think as an artist, you have to start thinking about, well, what is the smallest and most important thing that I can do that's going to give me the biggest amount of impact? That's one of the lean things. It's lean startup. We're starting with very little money, when the principles of lean are is, fail fast. So if it's a bad idea, you want to know as quick as possible so that you can move on to another idea. Don't run out of resources. So if you have $1,000, you don't want to spend your $1,000 until you've tested and validate, which is another piece. So you test and validate everything that you're going to do in a simulated kind of a way, so you can determine if it makes sense. And if it does, then you pour the gas on, because you don't want to waste your money, right? And so there's these handful of things that you do. And as an artist, I think it's really critical, especially so that you can actually build a business. Because it's really, the first question I ask artists, is this a business or is this a hobby? Businesses make money. Hobbies are fun, and they're things you do, and they're both good. I'm not putting anything down, but when you're going to be in the business side of it, you got to really think like a business person. So I don't know if that answered your question, because I took it off onto a total new tangent. So sorry about that.
It's perfect.
I mean, you are. Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So, when you are starting a band or anything, we are influenced by a lot of stuff, right?
Yep.
So we can be influenced by a song to do something else, or like a band to create our own band. So my question for you now is, who influenced you back then when you started your music career, and who influences you now?
I think it really started. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
That's okay.
Finish. It really comes. I grew up in a musical family. My father was a musician. I actually grew up on a television show called The Lawrence Welk Show, which somebody might remember. It was Sunday. It was Saturday night television. I think it was Saturday. I can't even remember now. But for 14 years, he was in that band on television every week. So I grew up in that space. And then my father was also a serial entrepreneur. I mean, we had boat businesses, we had lighting businesses. At one time we had 26 donut shops, we had a candy business, he had a reed business, saxophone reed business, and he was also started the whole concept of amplified instruments, where he took a hearing aid and used it like a microphone and slapped it on his clarinet, because he was a woodwind player, and then played that through an amp and started that amplified thing. He went to the Thomas Organ Company, which owned Vox, V-O-X, Vox Musical Instruments amplifiers. And then they took him on to build the first amplified orchestra, which was the studio Sound City. I don't know if you remember Sound City, which is one of the big, one of the historic recording studios. It was originally called the Vox Sound Lab. Then it became the Sound City. They changed the name to Sound City, and all those incredible records through the years, from Fleetwood Mac Rumors to Metallica. I mean, everybody recorded. So many hit records came out of that particular space. Well, that was my dad's studio that we started, and then he was also an entrepreneur. Him and Brad Plunkett from at Vox basically developed and built the wah-wah pedal. They invented the wah-wah pedal, which is one of the classic, being a guitar player, that's today is one of the classic pedals of all time, Jimi Hendrix. And actually, a funny story is that the first recording of the wah-wah pedal was my dad, and it was on a bassoon. That was the first instrument. It was called the wah-wah doozy. And he played wah-wah with a bassoon, and that was the very first recording. It's funny, I just found in our storage a carton filled with those original 45s of that original record, which is kind of fun to see again. But so my dad was my big influence musically starting up. And, I actually was funny because I started out, I wanted to be I wasn't really into music as a kid, but I played trumpet. I was a trumpet player and kind of kept it up when I was going. But my love was design and graphics. And I studied I was going to be an architect. And I was right through out of high school, I went in and became a draftsman for a company called Audiodyne at the time. And then I got into a band during that time with Jeff Beccaro and David Paich from Toto, right? Who became Toto. It wasn't Toto. And we had a kid band at that time called Merciful Soul Band. Merciful Soul was like a horn band that was like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago kind of a thing. Right. And we started winning all the battles of the bands. And I was the second trumpet player. I was the worst guy in the band. But I would go to those gigs and it was like, oh my God, there's a lot of girls here. And so I said, I think I'm going to be a musician. And I ended up changing my career from that and started taking music on full blown to make that happen. And from that, I became a musician and just started studying like crazy. And, I've had so many influences that have been really important to me in my life musically, and certain musicians and people. I was a big Junior Walker fiend. I loved Junior Walker as a saxophone player, and he was an influence. But I mean, I have influences in business, in music. My composing and arranging teacher, I graduated from a course called the Equal Interval System, which was by a guy named Lyle Spud Murphy, who developed it. Was an equal interval system, a whole new way of kind of writing a 12-tone equal intervals. So I learned that. And then music-wise, I just got into a whole bunch of different things, but mostly in the R&B world. I love Stevie Wonder, was kind of one of my all-time heroes. All that early Stevie is still some of my favorite stuff. And then, I got into guitar, and I started studying with a guy named Ted Green, who did all these books called Chord Chemistry. And then, I don't even know. I mean, there's so many influences. And today it's like, I really got into the business side of things. And that's where through the years I started my businesses. Actually, when I was out with Pink Floyd, I had a company called Walt Tucker, which you talked about, which we were doing all this post-production and stuff. And I went out and, I ended up kind of having to run my business being on the road with Pink Floyd. I had to ask them to please give me access to the production offices, because that's the only place they had phones, so that when I would go there, I could call my company and my folks that were running the business here and run my business from all over the world in the production office during that time. So, as far as influences, God, I mean, I don't even know where to go. Lenny Breau, who was one of my all-time favorite guitar players, who ended up living with me for, we were roommates for about a year when I found him in Maine and brought him in. There's just so many. I don't even know where to start when you're asking the question, who are the influences today? Mostly my biggest influences have been people in the business space, and in that, because I've really focused on business. Like I'm on my fourth company right now. So I've been sort of known as combining business and technology. I mean, business, entertainment, and technology. I've sort of been on the technology side of things because of all the things I did with my tech companies. And now Think is really about bringing back so I can play again. To be truthful, it's like I wanted to build something where I could actually really start to play more, because I got so involved in these tech companies. I didn't get a chance to really play as much as I wanted to. So that's why I kind of started Think, where I could wrap our band Think X around this business and technology space. There's, like I said, influencers, there's a ton of them, but most of my influencers, the guys that influenced me, were people that to get done. It's interesting. Eileen's just saying, she said, we're trying to get you to do the 5:30 show. I'm on the 5:30 show with you guys right now. Yeah. So she's hitting me up. Where are you? Where are you? And I'm on. I guess I should tell her. Let me just tell her here while we're on. You asked me another question.
All right. Because okay. So you said you have four companies. So I sincerely wanted to know, because I have trouble with this. How do you find time to sleep?
Oh yeah, it's been a gig, but I have so much fun. I love what I do. I love the business. Yeah, I love what's just the concept of the art of business and the art of making stuff, and I try to combine them. I try to teach with the artists that are serious about the business. Is you have to look at the business side of it just as valuable as the art that you make, right? Especially today, because we're in a direct-to-consumer world. It's a one-to-one model. I mean, that's the beauty about it. I don't need anybody. If I have my audience, I just go direct to them. I don't need anybody. And even when I with NFTs and the whole crypto space, is when I sell you something, I get paid directly, and I don't need anybody anymore. I don't have to go collect from anybody. I just go direct to you, and we're all good. So, it's really about the art of both things together and bringing them together.
Yeah.
And then where do I sleep? I know I'm like really tired right now because we went really late last night because we're in the midst of doing a bunch of big NFT drops right now. We're launching a whole series of those coming up, which I'm very excited about. So but it's just like, it ain't easy having this much fun. That's my motto.
No, yeah, it sounds like you're having a blast. It seems like if I'm gathering all this correctly, it's like Think is also meant to be like an educational experience as well, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, I think people want to learn and they'll pay for learning. So we build things into our models where we have some education built into, we have some aspirations on how we're going to bring that more. And one of the exciting parts of what we're doing with all our NFTs and all the clients that we're bringing in, artists, they're all carving out a chunk that we're putting into the Let Me Help Foundation, which is then going to dole that money out to specific things. And one of our places, what we're doing right now is we're building a music school in Watts called the Watts Conservatory of Music. And it's with Flea from the Chili Peppers and Norwood Fishbone. They're the kind of the leads on it. Myself and Norwood and Perkins, our whole Think band, and then a whole bunch of artists. Lee Scalar, I don't know if you know Lee, the bass player from Phil Collins band, and he's part of it. And we're launching a whole series of his NFTs with his new book right now called, which is kind of fun. It's called, here it is. I have it. Everybody Loves Me. Lee's gonna love me. Everybody, have you heard about this? Has Lee been on your show yet?
No, sir. That'd be great to have him on there.
Yeah. So Lee is doing this, and what this is he for the last 15 years. He has had everybody, the who's who of everywhere in the business, people all over the world, big artists, actors, directors, everything, flip them off, right? So this is an entire coffee table book of people flipping off Leland Sklar, everyone from you. I don't know if you can see these things. I mean, it's like, let me see. Let me find some people here. They're kind of fun to find here. I'm turning the page here. I'm trying to find some big ones for you right here.
I have to get that book. I just got it.
It's the best. It's the best. There's John Goodwin. I mean, he's got basically, here are the people he has in this book. He's got Joe Bonamassa, Mickey Jones, Al Schmidt, Phil Collins, Jackson Brown, Michael Brecker, Abe Laboriel, Jane Seymour, Dweezil Zappa, Mick Fleetwood, Eddie Van Halen, Graham Nash, Mark Hutchins, Slash, Van Dyke Parks, goes on, Paul Williams, Bonnie Raitt, Lou Adler, Jack Nicholson, Hal Blaine, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jim Keltner, Ray Parker Jr. Let me see. I don't want to read them all. Lyle Lovett, Mickey Raphael, Jack Black, Keith Richards, Ray said, Allie Wilson. It goes on. Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard. I mean, it's the craziest thing. So we're doing a NFT. We've turned his whole thing into a set of digital trading cards. Right. And so we have a whole set of rares, and we have, the normals, the ultra rares, the ultra things, all of that stuff. And so we're getting ready to launch that as a whole set of NFTs. And it's really fun. It's funny as heck to see this. Who doesn't, you got to have some of these, right? Gwyneth Paltrow flipping you off. My God. It's all because everybody loves him. It's all in love and spirit fun, right?
Absolutely. Oh,
and you just mentioned an artist that I like adore with my life. It's Bonnie Raitt, man. She puts on the best concert because I saw her with James Taylor. One of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. It's amazing.
Bonnie's one of the great musicians. I mean, she's an incredible talent, and what a beautiful singer, and her playing is extraordinary. I mean, she's the real deal. She's the real deal. Bonnie Raitt is the real deal right there.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you recorded 2 albums with Supertramp, which are Brother?
Actually, I'm on 3. I'm actually on 3. Brother, Where You Bound, Free as a Bird, and Famous Last Words.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know that last one. Was there room for you to have you say in the recording process, or was it like you're doing this and I don't,
Oh, no. I mean, they're pretty much, you go in the studio, we'd go, because I was playing with them for years.
Right. Okay.
And, just like anything, we go in the studio and we work parts out together. If Rick had lines he wanted me to play, then I would play those lines. And, so it was that kind of working relationship that, it wasn't they had charts necessarily written out, come in, play these parts. It was more of a collaborative thing, figure out a solo here, come up with some lines. And so we just kind of worked together on that. And then some of the stuff, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. If there was melodies that he wanted me to play and things like that. But yeah, I love those guys. That was a great band to play with. I mean, that was probably my biggest, before Pink Floyd, that was one of the biggest tours I'd been on where, it was world stadiums and that kind of a thing. And there's just wonderful people. I mean, John Helliwell is one of my favorite humans on the planet. I've learned more from him, not so much about music, but about life. He is the consummate enjoy everything. And when he takes a bite of food, he is so present. His eyes go blank. You can see he tastes everything. And, I used to laugh. I'd see him. He loved collecting Swiss Army knives. So all over the world, he would go to places and find, and there's lots of them, man. There's like tons of different colors and finds and things. And he would find a new one that, like, you're in Switzerland or something. He'd find like this cool Swiss Army knife that he didn't find anywhere in the world. And I'd look over him in the dressing room. He just bought it that day, and he'd be sitting there looking at that thing like 20 minutes, just like really getting into everything. So he was a true connoisseur of just experiencing life at a level that I had never seen before. Somebody that just loves really wonderful quality things, right? Yeah, John was great. So I loved him. He taught me about food and eating. He loved fine food. Like, we'd go and he'd get, the chef would always sign the menu, and he was a fanatic about that stuff. So it was great. He made me really think about life in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Yep. Fun times, that band. That was a great one. Toto was fun too. I mean, those guys, it was great to work with them because they were my high school guy, my friends when we were kids. And I sucked when I was young. I couldn't play that good. So I couldn't keep up with them. They were already great players going off and doing things. And so I was having to run to catch up afterwards because I decided to become a musician later on in life. And then I just, ate, drink, sleep. That's all I did was play 24/7. Day in, day out, until studied with all great teachers and really tried to get myself together to get to a point. And so when I got called to go play with them, that was a really big thing for me because they were, Jeff Porcaro, one of the greatest drummers of all time. Right. I mean, Jeff is legendary at a level that is just crazy. Right. And so getting to play with those guys was a real, it made me feel good. I finally got to the point where I could play good enough to play in that band with them to go do that tour, right? So
that was actually our next question we had here. So that was the 1985 Isolation tour, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So how did that go for you? Did you just kind of, because you knew those guys before, did you just kind of jump right in, like no issues or? Well,
for me it was like. Jeff was always really, for me, mentally and just striving, was somebody that I wanted to get. I was always, I got to get to the point where I can get up in the league with those guys, right? Be recognized by them as really a player. Because at the time I was a trumpet player and I wasn't really very good. I was okay, enough to get through the parts and, all of that. So I really had to study, and it was kind of funny. So when I got the call, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to go play with Toto. I was like, oh man, this will be cool. Yeah. So all I could tell you is I studied the music, I practiced it and learned it inside and out, made sure I had it every day. And I know the night before I couldn't sleep. I was so scared that I was going to go in. If I screwed up, I would panic. If I played stuff wrong or it didn't feel good, I thought, oh, it could be terrible, right? And I'll just never forget the first thing I did when I walked in and I was already kind of ready to play. We didn't even start out playing. The first thing Jeff did was hand me a cowbell. And he made me play the cowbell first for the first time. And the reason was he wanted to see what my time was like, right? Because he's a groove king, right? And luckily through those years, I became a fanatic with metronomes. And I had one of the first 5 Lynn drum machines that I bought back in the day. So time is something that I was really in. So after I played that song, it was like sinking in, just sinking into the groove with Jeff. And afterwards he came, put his arm around me, said, oh, okay, Paige. And it was like, oh, I got through it. Then everything else was smooth sailing from that point. But that first cowbell was a little scary because I thought if I came in and I was like all funky and it didn't feel good and stuff, he was like, "Get out of here!" Right? I thought I was gonna fail.
Well,
But yeah.
Well, see, okay. So during the tour, we when you played live with them, where do you received by the fans, or did it's like I'm not no.
I'm sorry. Say that again. What was it you said?
Were you well received by their fans?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was great. I mean, again, these were brothers, and it was just a great tour. I mean, we had a blast on that tour, and it was so fun for me. It was we had two buses when we toured on that one, and we had the A bus and the B bus, and the A bus was Lukather and Paich and Mikey Picaro and Steve Picaro, and then our bus was myself, Jeff, Lenny Castro, percussionist, and Paulette, who was one of the singers. And I'm telling you, buddy, those trips were so good. It would be like we listened to 3 records, basically 3 artists, for that entire tour. And I learned so much about music and the grooves and the stories that Jeff had. It was really, really a blast. I mean, I really, really enjoyed that tour a lot, to hang with such incredible musicians. I mean, they're just amazing players, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they're on so many records.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time listening to Toto last night, just kind of around the house, and just wonderful.
They can play. They got serious chops and stuff.
Yeah.
It was funny when we were talking about legendary. So Jeff Beccaro was on thousands and thousands of records before he passed. But Leland Sklar, he's the most recorded bass player in history. He's on 26,000 records.
Really? That's
26,000. I didn't say 100. I said 1,000.
Yeah.
26,000 recordings.
Man, it's like, where do you find the time? How do you sleep? That's yeah.
He does not. He's a vampire, dude. Come on.
50-something years of just doing sessions and playing on records, daily for multiple. During those days, they were racking. They were doing 3 sessions a day. And, you do 3-4 songs, at a time, and, they just cranking out stuff. And that was how it was back in the day. Those were fun days, the music time, when those early times you'd go from one session, one studio to the next studio. I was talking to Kenny Aronoff, which you probably get because Eileen puts him on a bunch of stuff. But Kenny, one of the great drummers, another guy that's been on stuff. We were talking about it the other day when he'd go to Nashville. He had drums kits. He had like 3 kits in Nashville. And he had kits in New York, and he had stuff, and he would just fly. He'd go to Nashville, and they'd do a 10, 2, and a 4, right? It was like, and you'd go to one session, and that session while it was being set up, they'd have another set of drums there. He'd walk in, do 3 hours there, go grab lunch, and go do 3 hours more. And that's how it was back in those days. That's how sessions were being done. It was really something.
That sounds like so much fun. Like, I would just love to do that. So I'm a drummer. These are not mine. These are my wife's guitars. So I just use it as as a backdrop. So yeah, she's a guitarist. I'm a drummer. So I can't imagine what it would be like to just go to different cities and have multiple drum sets that are just waiting for you. And just come in and do sessions.
He had me everywhere. He had him in London. He had him everywhere because he was just flying. They were flying him everywhere. 2 days. But that was when the budgets were massive and everybody didn't care. It was like the record label was just throwing the dollars down, right?
Yeah.
Different time now.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a question before Bradley has his. So you're working with David Lee Roth on his 2003 album, Diamond Dave. I gotta know, is he as crazy as he's led to believe, or is he just a sweet guy?
I don't know. First of all, I don't think it was the Diamond Dave album I did just to crush. Maybe it was. I don't remember the names. Yeah, but no, those were interesting sessions because I'd never played with him, and I went to that. I remember showing up at the studio at like 9 a.m. in the morning. Here comes Dave. He's like Shecky Green, like he never stopped, like he's the funniest guy, and it's like he's a joke. It just keeps going, and he had a nice bottle of Jack there, and it was like get this session going, right? So he was a lot of fun. It was fun to work with him on that. He's a really interesting guy. Really funny.
Well, imagine that, man. A bottle of Jack at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can't And
Those were the days. I don't think he's doing that anymore. But those were.
I don't think he is. Yeah. But that's
That was
all.
rock and roll. Right.
Yeah.
Now it's our cup of tea.
Yeah.
Coffee in the morning. Yeah.
Coffee,
Yeah.
cups of tea.
Gotta slow it down.
My energy smoothie, and
Yeah. So with Pink Floyd, you've recorded 5 albums, correct?
No, I did. Momentary Lapseries and Delicate Sound of Thunder, and then I believe there were some European things that were released and stuff that were later.
Well, on Wikipedia says you did 3 box sets. Shine On.
Yeah. Those are box sets of
Right.
things that we were part of. Yeah.
Which, by the way, my oldest sister Greta, she's geeking out that I'm even talking to you right now, and
all right,
she loves.
Hi, Greta.
My
sister Greta.
Yeah, she's. I told her we were doing this interview, and she was like, "You have no idea how much I wore out Delicate Sound of Thunder." Like,
oh wow,
so,
yeah, that's a really good album. I mean, it's actually like some of the early Floyd fans are that are really fanatic about that specific sound that was back in the day. But I think Dave did a great job, and Bob Ezrin produced that. It's a really good record. I go back and I haven't listened. I don't really I never go listen to the stuff I do. It's funny. It's sure. People tell me about it because I know they released this box set and they remastered everything and they upsampled all the video up to 4K, and it's incredible. I've seen a couple clips of the new versions of it on YouTube. That some of the songs are out there, and it's pretty cool. I mean, that's one thing about Floyd. They don't mess around. Their production is as world class as it can possibly be. Right? That's everything they do. It's top technologies, top designers. Storm Thorgenson's one of the greatest album cover designers of all time. I actually think he was like kind of the 5th member of the band. Back in the day, because of all the visuals and his creativeness in that space was, a big part of what Floyd is. Right. And, you look at Dave Gilmour, to me, he's the master of melody, right? He's like, great. You listen to Comfortably Numb, and if you're not listening, if you don't hear the solo, the guitar solo, it's like, what happened? Somebody didn't sing the lyrics. It's almost that important to the song is da 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 da. That whole melody is so iconic, right? And all those solos he did. So yeah, Dave is the master of melody, and he completely changed my thinking about music, mainly because of that. Instead of usually a lot of times saxophone players will be blah, 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 we play all these notes and all this stuff, and it sounds good to the people that want to listen to it, but nobody's going home humming it.
Right.
They're not going, oh wow, that melody's stuck in my head, right? It's like, oh, I can't believe that thing is in my head. I can't get it out of my mind, right? So that's when I started saying, okay, I'm going to change my whole game. I'm going to play like a singer. I'm going to start thinking about melodies, and I changed my whole style in a sense. Well, I modified my style. He made me really think about it in those terms, and I loved playing with Floyd. I mean, I always say it was the easiest gig I've ever had because nobody told me anything to do. I just came in, Dave said, just play, make your own stuff up. And when it's your time to solo, just solo. Right. So I just soloed. It was fun. It was easy. I never had to do anything, but I would always, go back to, because a lot of those early records were Dick Perry, and I wanted to always honor his thing. So I would always pick a little piece of it to start the solos that people would recognize. And then I'd go make my own, kind of wear my own clothes, so to speak. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with those albums that you were a part of, was the writing process pretty much the same? Like, or did
remember those,
with each one?
I wasn't really part of the writing process on those. I came in and put solos on, like played parts. I go in the studio, they say, play something here.
Here's the song. Sure. Yeah.
And I just went in and I put solos and stuff on those records. I wasn't actually part of the writing session of those songs on those records. No.
I got you. Well, your parts definitely make those songs and those albums very iconic. And
thank you. Well, it's pretty hard not to be iconic when you're playing with the iconic, most iconic band in the world, right? Just automatically, whatever you play on that record becomes iconic if that record goes out, in a sense. Right. But yeah, I'm very honored, very thankful. It's actually interesting is when I got the call to do this thing. I met Dave when we were doing a Supertramp record, he came and guested on the record and played a solo on the album. And that's when we became friends. I got to know him. I invited him to a gig I had that night. He came down and hung out with us at the club. And then a week later, he came to a show I did. And then a couple days later, he called me to go put solos on the record. And I went and did that. And then I came back. But the funny part is I knew nothing about Pink Floyd. I mean, honest to God, I knew nothing about Pink Floyd at that time. I had no idea. I mean, I knew who they were, but I couldn't tell you what songs they did. I said, the only thing I could have remembered at the time, I remember hearing that song, Have a Cigar, right? And so I said, yeah, I know. I mean, that's that band that does that cigar song, Have a Cigar. What is it, right? Yes, yeah. So when I got called after, so I went and played, put the solos on the record, did the stuff, and it was cool. And I didn't really understand much more about it other than that. Then a couple days later, he called me up and said, hey, we're going out again. You want to come on? We're going to do a 2-year tour. Do you want to join? We want to look at join the band for all this stuff. And I said, let me think about it, Dave. Right. So I didn't know. So I called my friends up, my music buddies. I said, I went and I played on this record. It was for this band called Pink Floyd. They said, oh, dude, you played on a Pink Floyd record? I said, yeah. I said, I did. He says, are you kidding me? No. I said, yeah, I played on that record. And it was really cool. And then I got called from the guitar player, this guy, Dave Gilmore. Dave Gilmore called you on the phone. I said, yeah. He called me to play on this thing. And he wants me to go do this tour and to do this thing and go out. And they said, dude, you have to do this. You gotta do this, right? So that night, I remember I went to Tower Records because they were open, late. And I bought the records and I came home and I listened to it all. And I finally said, I called some more friends of mine. And because, as a saxophone player, it's not really a place you spend a bunch of time. I was listening to, Junior Walker and, Fathead Newman and Lockjaw Davis and, all the Texas tenor guys and, King Curtis and all that stuff, because that's where saxophone lived. And so, but I called all my friends. They said, you have to do it. So I ended up taking it. And boy, am I glad I did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Best hardest thing. If I wouldn't have done that, I would have been kicking myself today. But I'm very thankful and had a wonderful ride. And it was truly an experience I can't even describe. It was just amazing to be tied to such a powerful brand, the power of that brand worldwide. And, they were all stadium tours, they were all huge events. And we went around the world twice and did that show, sold about pretty much all the shows, every show, I think, pretty much. Close to it anyway. If they didn't, they were there. So that was a wonderful, incredible lifetime experience that was crazy. And it's funny because I've been going through all my archives because of all this NFT stuff. I'm getting ready to launch 50 years or 40 something years of collectibles that I've collected from all my tours, and never before seen photos and pictures and video. I've shot about 150 hours of Floyd video through all that. And I've been creating all this really cool art pieces out of all this stuff, which I'm going to launch as NFTs. Later, that'll be probably in a couple, 2-3 months, where we're launching these other ones first. Then I'm going to do my whole thing after that. But yeah, it's crazy. So I've been looking at all this stuff. I hadn't seen, all this video I'd shot, and I just put it in a box. So I've been opening up these boxes that were crazy. And here, I'll show you something that's really kind of fun if I can find it quick enough here, because this will blow your mind. It'll be funny for people to see here. Let me see here if I can do this real quick. Let me see. No, that won't be it. I don't want to hold everybody up here. I'm just trying to find this because it'll be fun to see. Let's see. Where can I do that? Oh, let me go see if it's in the. Let me see if it's here, favorites, if I can find it here. Hold on one second. Hi out there in the land. I'm almost there. Okay. So I'm going to hold this up. You can't see this, but I'm going to do it, and I'll tell this story. So I went to see David Gilmour. That's a shirt, right? That's basically the back. And I'm telling this story. I went to see Dave's show at Pompeii. They re-released it. And I came home and opened my box, and that's what was in my boxes. unused tickets from every show, massive amounts of like, that's the original picture from the album cover. That Storm gave me that album cover, which was original.
Yeah.
And you can see there's just like a whole bunch of stuff here. Like, let me see here. I can kind of slide it around. You can, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but all this crazy, the original jacket from the MTV stuff, gold albums, just crazy stuff, just mounds and mounds of this stuff, right? Signed books, covers, but you get the idea. It's a vast collection of stuff that people that I have that I had no idea that I were in boxes this whole time, but you can see it. It's a massive, crazy amount of stuff. So that's been fun to go through. And I just digitized all the video and been watching that. And that's been crazy to see, go back after, 25 years or something when we did that tour, and or 30 years now. And to bring that stuff back right now, it's been like a time capsule to watch this all go down.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's amazing to find like memories of certain like your show tickets that bring back memories,
Oh yeah, bringing it back for me too, because I'm looking at it and I shot thousands of photographs, which I've been going through, and I shot them all black and white. I was a kind of a amateur photographer, so I would take the opportunity to be on the road and say I'm going all over the world, so I'm going to shoot pictures. So I've shot some pictures that I'm really proud of that I've got that are just really crazy cool, and I'm going to be releasing those too. And so it's been fun going back and reminiscing, checking it all out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's no doubt that you have quite a history providing the saxophone for a number of artists over the years. Speaking of tours, do you have a favorite tour or show that really stood out to you?
Well, a lot of favorite. I mean, there was a lot of great shows. I think, if I would say one show, and it's probably because that's one of the shows I'm working on right now, was when Pink Floyd, we played Venice, Italy. And they floated these two barges down from Oslo, the sizes of football fields, and they set up the entire show on the water, 150 yards off of St. Mark's Square, and hundreds of thousands of people showed up. It was a free Pink Floyd concert in Venice. The people were living on gondolas for days while it was set up to hold their spots, and the streets were filled to the max. And anybody that can go, so just go type into Google Pink Floyd Venice, and you will see like the amazing amount of stuff. And then unfortunately the destruction afterwards, because it's like there was trash and garbage. Right. Venice was trash. It was just crazy to see this. They'll never do that again. But that show was really, really special. The Palace of Versailles was incredible. That was the first time anybody played the Palace of Versailles, and 90,000 people showed. It was an amazing thing there. And then, Russia was incredible. That was also, we did, I think we did 12 nights or 10 nights, some number in the 35,000 seat arena that they had for the Olympic Stadium thing, Olympic Indoor Stadium. And that was incredible too. So, I mean, there was a variety of them. So any of them that stick out, but that Venice was just extraordinary because the only way you could get around was on boats, and to get around, to get out there. And I'll never forget, just to get a ride from the dock to the thing, the gondola guy, or not the gondola guys, the little boat shuttle guys would charge you like $60 to go for like 150 yards. Right. And they were like, they were killing it because it was the only transportation, right?
Right.
So, so that was a great one.
I have a question here. We're going to get to our listener questions in just a minute here. This is
okay. Yeah, I don't mean to be rude, but I unfortunately I have business that I may have to jump to pretty quick. So I'll have to go pretty quick.
Sure, absolutely. Well, why don't we skip right over that, and we'll go to our listener questions. Is that good with you, James?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's good with me. It's okay with you, James.
So fine. Yeah.
So my sister Greta, she had a question. She wanted to ask about the division between David Gilmour and Roger Waters and how it affected the future work.
It's such a funny thing. There's not a lot of there's never been a lot of talk, at least amongst all of us, about that. I really don't know the whole spiel, but I just know that they were, best friends and got crazy someplace, and there's just been this incredible rub for a whole period of time. And I know that it was close to like everything was coming sort of back together again, and then there was an article in Rolling Stone magazine or Playboy magazine where there was some more words said about things, and that kind of drove everybody apart again. And I really, to be honest, I really didn't know, and it wasn't something I wanted to get into too much with Dave or any of that stuff. I just kind of let that go. So I'm sorry, I don't really know the nuances of what the issues were, but yeah, no, sorry.
No, all good. And then I have another question from my sister-in-law, Christine. She wants to know, what's it like to be the Kenny G of Pink Floyd?
Kenny G of Pink Floyd. Well, Kenny G did very well. I mean, as far as saxophone players, he's probably made the most money and most renowned saxophone player worldwide when it comes to his records. I forgot how many. I think he sold like 60 million records or some stupid number like that. There's no saxophone player in the world that's done that. Plus, he made great investments. He was one of the first investors in Starbucks.
Wow!
And that turned into something. Yeah. So Kenny's been done quite well for himself. And I'm very thankful. Thank you for saying that. That's very kind. We don't play anything alike. I definitely don't play like Kenny G. I don't play that style of music, very much. But as far as a business guy and somebody that took the saxophone, turned it into making money, Kenny G did it. So thanks for putting me in that seat with him. Right.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, so we do have two more questions for you, and then we'll let you go.
Okay.
This question is from my cousin Madison.
Okay.
Yeah. What's it like to be on the road with Pink Floyd?
Well, I mean, it's I guess first of all, it's always very comfortable. If you're going to travel and you're going to be on the road with a band, Pink Floyd is the band to be on. Supertramp was good too, but everything was really we flew on our own. We had a 727 stretch jet that was completely, it was rented from a sheik that had set this up. It only sat 22 people, but it had bedrooms and bathrooms and, like just decked out like a hotel room, really beautiful space, great meals, we lived pretty large. We stayed in 5-star hotels, and we only really worked, roughly 3, maybe 4 days the most a week because of, I had to move this thing, right? So we do a show, and then next day would be a day off because they have to move things. And we had multiple stages, right? So there were just like stages that we would leapfrog. So one would be set up here, and then they set up another one here. And we were actually the steel part of it. For one of them, we were trading tours with Michael Jackson. So the Jackson tour was on, and then so they would set it so they could use the same staging steel for all of them. So then they would just have to bring the stuff. But, traveling with Pink Floyd was really very, 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 very nice, and a wonderful experience to experience the world in that sort of 5-star world, right? It's like the best hotels, the best food, the best, everything. And we had a blast. I mean, it was truly, I'm very thankful. I like to always say, I feel like I am the most grateful, most blessed human being that has ever lived. I'm so thankful for the life that I've been able to have, because it's been a pretty good ride. Now, it hasn't always been easy. Now, I'm not trying to say, it's been cake. I've got through my struggles and all that stuff too. Don't get me wrong. But, looking at this musical career, to be able to do these types of things is really a gift. And I'm very, very thankful.
Sure.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay. So, our very last question is, our podcast is called When Words Fail, Music Speaks. I find that very, very true. So is there one song that you can think of right now that you can listen to, but you can't tell like me or Blake or, your sister or your mom how it makes you feel?
Is there a song right now? Well, see, I happen to go back to, I truly love those old American classics like, Amazing Grace, Tennessee Waltz, those great, beautiful tradition, melody, storytelling songs, so I love all of that kind of stuff. Anyone particularly,
so hard to pick,
It's so hard to pick. There's just so many great songs. I can think of songs that really, mostly things for me that make me feel that I can actually say is with certain solos, like, I think of Stevie Wonder on his harmonica playing For Once in My Life. That harmonica solo touches me like nothing else. Like it's just, it is one of the most for me, one of the most beautifully constructed musical solos I've ever heard. It's just an incredibly beautiful phrasing and the lines that he plays and the melody. It's just incredible. So I kind of being a musician, I go back to solos that really touched me. And, there's that. And, Hank Crawford, one of the great alto saxophone players, one of my heroes, he taught me a lot. He's actually the precursor, what I would say, to David Sanborn. David Sanborn had a real distinct style. He changed the landscape of saxophone from my point of view because of the sound. When you hear Dave Sanborn can play one note, where when he first came out, you could not tell. You knew who that was, Dave Sanborn, because he didn't sound like anybody else. Now there's a lot of Dave Sanborn clones, and everybody's the community's picked up on his style and brought it there. But he was the guy for that. And but Hank Crawford, that song "Easy Living," the solo he plays on that is just, I don't know how it makes you feel. I hear that song and it tears my heart. It's just so musical, and you can hear every note and feel everything that he plays. It's incredible.
Music is a really powerful thing.
Yes, it is. Well, we have to remember, think at the bottom line, we're all a note. We're just a piece of, we're energy, right? And we're a vibration, and music is that. And, it's so sad to see how music's being taken out of all the schools and all that, when it's really probably one of the most important, it's one of the top important things in the human existence and humanity, is that shared music experience that we have with all of us. People get out and dance. And I mean, it's everything about us. It makes us happy when we're sad. It helps us through tough times, through great times. It's the thing we reach into when we need it. And it's just sad to see that that's a lot going out. That's why we're building the music school and really trying to support things that help keep music out there, because it's not just about the music. It's about what it does to the soul, right? It's a fundamental piece of who we are that is so critical, and it's so important, right? And so, that's the thing. When words fail, music speaks. Music always speaks. When words fail, music speaks. And that is like the truth right there, my friend. That's about as true as it gets, right?
There you go.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for doing this. This has been an absolute honor. We really
pleasure.
Enjoyed getting to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good luck out there as the world kind of gets back to normal, and with
we like that
and everything. And more power to you for pushing on through during this whole thing.
Yeah, my whole thing is this, and I always like to leave this with people because I think this is really important to understand. And this is something that changed my life more than anything that I've ever had, is this. Right now, us talking is the only thing that's real. Everything else is an illusion, a thought, a metric. 5 minutes ago, right? Can never change it, can never touch it, can never do anything. I can just remember it, right? So it's a mentation, it's a thought, it's an illusion. It's just something that I imagine in my head. 5 minutes from now, same thing. I don't know. I mean, what could happen in 5 minutes? I mean, anything can happen. I don't know, right? You just don't know. So because it's the only thing that's real, that's where I try to live, and it's all about realizing that the only step that you take that matters is the one that you're taking right now. And so, like, when all this COVID stuff hit, I realized, I got up in the morning, I went, all my gigs are gone. Everything we've done, all the revenue's gone. We're done. We're done, right? Yeah. But instead of realizing, I went and said, well, wait a minute, I'm still drinking this cup of coffee. In reality, I was there at that moment. And I just said, there, inside of all chaos and things is where there's new opportunities. So I hope everybody out there looks at the fact that say, yeah, that happened. But whatever it is, the only thing that's happening right now, unless you're being chased by a lion or something, and don't get me wrong, things are actually better than you think they can be if you can wake up enough to see reality and live in that space. So all I can tell everybody is the most important journey is the one you take inward and discover how to be aware and live in that space. And so it is really important to me, and it's what makes it work. And that's how I push through the whole thing is just realizing what was real, and then just looked for all the opportunities. And there's a lot of them right now. This is the greatest opportunities for so many things as an entrepreneur, because there's so many problems that have to be fixed now that have happened. So it's launching all kinds of new entrepreneurship with people and ideas how to change and do things differently. So don't get discouraged out there. Hang in there. Remember, the only thing that's real is us now. Or if you're out there and you're listening to this, as you listen to this, that's the only thing that's real. So don't get caught up in the mental noise that we get caught up in. And I'm suffering, worry, which is not really even happening. We're worrying because we're identifying with thoughts in our head, not with reality. So that's all. I just like to tell people, stay present, figure out what that is. And it's all about awareness. And here's the puzzle. How do I know I'm aware that I'm aware? Solve that one.
Ooh.
And life will be good. There you go.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, that's a brain teaser, right? So,
Brain teaser.
that's right. Yeah. So, we do hope that you come back anytime.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anytime. Give me a buzz. I'll be there. Hit up Eileen. She'll set it up. And I love coming to talk to you. Thank you. And good luck to you guys with your show.
Thank you.
Right? Because remember, everybody gets to be a businessman. Listen, you're a broadcaster, man. You're NBC. Like they had years ago. You have that ability now to go build your business.
NBC, right?
You're your own, but you don't need them anymore. You can do your own thing.
That's right.
So good luck. Good luck on your entrepreneurial spirit. And yes, when words fail, music speaks. Very important.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Yes,
Goodbye.
sir. Bye.
Bye.